Well, I didn't think this video would actually get made. Why? Well, you know how back in 2023's top 5 FNAF Fangames of the Year video, I said there weren't many fangames that came out? Unfortunately, that problem became worse in 2024. Making this list and video was genuinely hard as hell, mostly because there was really not many fangames, especially notable ones, that came out in 2024. I'm telling you right now, the top 5 fangames in this video and the 2 fangames I got in the Dishonorable Mentions were the only ones I literally could think of that came out in 2024. Same goes for my friends and video production crewmates in my behind the scenes Discord server that helped me with my videos. These were all the fangames a lot of us could think of. This is such a huge surprise to me because 2024 was the 10-year anniversary of Five Nights at Freddy's. You'd think there would have been more. And remember, I do not count demos in these annual best FNAF Fangame of the Year lists. If I did, I'd have a bit more to include. 3 demos that come to mind are the Joy Creations Fanverse Remake demo, FNAF Furs demo, and Engraved Establishments demo. And honestly, these 3 demos would have probably been number 1, number 2, and number 3 on this list if they were counted. However, they were demos, so I don't count them. When their full versions are released, they'll count for these lists. However, this video exists, and that is because enough fangames that do qualify for this list did come out. So negativity aside, I'm glad that this video could be made because making these annual top 5 best FNAF Fangame of the Year list videos are really fun for me. I get to explore a variety of fangames, give my honest opinions, whether it be praise or it be critique, and hopefully an attempt is made to be constructive and insightful, and then pretty much showcase these fangames to you guys who watch these videos, because remember, these are best lists. Typically, the honorable mentions could feature some mid or bad fangames, which would then probably be renamed to dishonorable mentions. However, I'm usually positive in these videos, so often or not, I am typically recommending these fangames. All I will say though is that number 5 on this list is just an okay fangame, but it's better than bad, so that's honestly not a really bad thing. Before we begin, remember these are my personal opinions. You're allowed to disagree or agree. This video, despite the title, is purely subjective. As well, the obvious rules. Only FNAF Fangames that came out in 2024, and they have to be fully released games. As well, be sure to subscribe down below and turn on the notification bell. Totally optional, but it'd be appreciated if you did. Without further ado, let's dive into the top 5 best FNAF Fangames of 2024. Now, as number 5 on this best list, this is just an okay fangame. Yeah, the competition this year was very eh. This is a fan remake or reimagining of Nixon's cancelled fangame, Those Nights at Fredbear's. The main reason why I'm not a super huge fan of this game is that it does kind of follow the traps that a free-roam Fredbear's game falls under, that being kind of bland and generic, both in concept and execution. I personally would have made it more unique in any aspect, especially since free-roam Fredbear fan games tend to be the most cliche genre of FNAF fangames ever. The gameplay even has some room for improvement too. For one, the stealth in the game could have definitely been better handled. It feels wonky in execution, and therefore more focus should have been given to it. However, the gameplay isn't all bad. The character AI is surprisingly decent, there is some genuine challenge within it to keep it somewhat interesting, and more. In all fairness, it does do a decent job at recapturing what Nixon kinda had planned for his Those Nights at Fredbear's game that never saw the light of day. For a Fredbear free roam game, there does seem to be more passion within it than most others, which is respectable. At the end of the day, it's harmless and it exists, and that's all I can really say. It's just an alright fan game. Visuals are awesome though, of course. Guess there was more I could say. This is the first truly good fangame on the list. This one is pretty decent all things considered, especially since the game was patched and all. In my opinion, this game is an example on how to do a reimagining of FNAF 1. For starters, the visuals are fantastic. They're really impressive and just goes to show how talented fangame developers could be visual-wise. I love the animatronic designs in this game a lot too. They look genuinely accurate but also unique in their own small detailed ways. The immersion in this game was well done and it really sells you on what you're in for with this game. In terms of the gameplay, I really like it. It's intense. It gets challenging throughout, something that is crucial to any remake of FNAF 1. The gameplay for the first game gained challenging as the game goes on is what makes FNAF 1's gameplay good, and I'm glad this game remembers that. The core of FNAF 1's gameplay remains intact, and that is respectable about this fangame. This fan game also just has pretty small but cool quirks like the fact you can access documents on the computer to read. This pretty much serves as providing lore for the game, which is pretty reminiscent of FNAF 1 storytelling. Not as subtle and mysterious, but it's still neat and definitely broadens the game's story by quite a bit. The custom night in this game is also pretty unique, as there's more specifics to it than a typical custom night in a FNAF game or fan game. All in all, Next Week at Freddy's is pretty damn good. It isn't the best FNAF fan game ever, but it managed to be an enjoyable experience and it's deserving a spot on this list. This game is pretty neat. I even made a fan game review for this one. This is a remake of an old FNAF fan game, and this remake is certainly a massive improvement. The main gameplay loop of the game is pretty fun all around, mostly in the fact that it can get pretty challenging. The reason for this is because this game pretty much serves to be trial and error. It's a technique to learn gameplay mechanics that can either work or not work in FNAF fan games, and I'd say it works in this one. Mostly in the fact that it's not that hard to learn the gameplay. Night 5 especially is an awesome night in terms of gameplay, mostly because it's a boss night to be fair, but it puts your resource management skills to the test. I really like when boss nights in FNAF games or fan games do something like that, using what you learn and putting it to the test. It makes the game feel more worthwhile. The post-night minigames are also pretty neat too in their own ways, just serves to be more decent gameplay. There's also this game's Night 6, which is such a shift from the tone of the main nights. It goes for something more comedic, and honestly, I think it's hilarious. It's such a neat contrast, and I think it really works. There's also Custom Night, which has characters like her. Oh my god. In terms of critiques, this game admittedly doesn't do anything huge to make it stand out, and also the game's horror is personally really lacking. However, this game is still a pretty enjoyable experience, and I definitely recommend it. Before I discuss this game, let me answer the question that some of you may be asking. Why and how does this count when you put this game in the top 5 list for 2023 FNAF fan games? Well, you can pretty much get rid of that game from that list and bump a fan game behind it up on that list and put myPOPGOES as number 2 on this list. Why? Because this is the full version of the game, whereas the 2023 release was a pretty shorter version of the game. With that being said, myPOPGOES is a fun game. I genuinely enjoy this full version of the game so much. I pretty much got into detail somewhat in my ranking of the FNAF 10-year anniversary week content because this game was the first piece of content to release as part of the event, so I won't get into much here. Essentially though, the amount of content this game has for such a smaller scale is pretty neat and cool. There is of course the main gameplay, which is the campaign mode, which is pretty fun in its own right. It even comes with endless mode and challenges to spice it up and make the process to 100%ing it much more satisfying. There's also the minigames, which are my personal favorite parts of the game. Each of the minigames are fun and quaint in their own ways. There's also secrets and lore within the game, and the game's endings are pretty worthwhile and make me personally excited for POPGOES Evergreen. The whole presentation for the game is also super well done, whether it be the visuals, the soundtrack, the tone, all of that. It's a perfectly themed type of game, and this game certainly gets a lot of points for that. As well, with this being a fanverse game on Steam, the fact it has achievements is pretty neat too. This game isn't perfect, obviously, mostly in the fact that it admittedly isn't something super special. However, this game is still really good. However, it isn't number 1. Now we got the dishonorable mentions. Oh boy. The first dishonorable mention. The reason why it's not on the actual list is because, well, I didn't get to play it, so I don't really have any thoughts on the game itself. The game was taken down. It was re-uploaded by others though, but I don't know if I want to play it because of that. I'll say though, it's a dishonorable mention and not an honorable mention because of the developer's actions. Those were messed up, no guarantee. If you want to know what happened, I recommend looking into it yourself as I'm not going to get into detail here. I will say though, if I played the game and the game was good, I would put it either as an honorable mention or in the top 5, even with the developer intact, because I still do separate creator and creation unless otherwise. However, I don't have thoughts on the game itself, so I'm pretty much making this decision because of the developer this time, so yeah. And the other dishonorable mention, yep, this game, oh brother, pun not intended. I have quite a lot to say about this fan game, but that'll be saved for a video coming sometime very soon. In the meantime, all you gotta hear from me is that this is not how you do a remake of FNAF 1. A huge portion of aspects make this game not very fun and not very faithful to the original FNAF 1 game, and honestly, that's really disappointing. Now we carry on to the number 1 pick for the year. This fan game is pretty quaint and interesting. This is one of the more really fun ones. This game pretty much has a lot of knights and a new enemy gets added to it each one you play. You pretty much know the enemy's mechanics before selecting each one you want, which is pretty intriguing. I love how much of this game is surviving for as long as you can. It's a very neat spin to fan games. Yes, there's endless modes in a lot of fan games, but this is one of those fan games where that is the center point of the game, and this game is unique because of that. The gameplay mechanics for the characters themselves are also pretty neat. They help make the game more challenging but also fair and fun. The fact a character gets added each night makes it much more different and interesting each time too, allowing for the game to be very enjoyable to play. All in all, the gameplay of this game is pretty damn good. There's even a sandbox mode that is pretty much inspired by Ultimate Custom Night, which is fucking awesome. As well, another really good thing about this game are the visuals. I fucking love the visuals. They are simplistic and colorful, but that is what gives this game charm. The style is just very unique and very appealing, and it gives this game so much more flavor visually, especially in the character designs. They're pretty good all around. The background's also pretty nice too. There's just so many extra details to this game that keeps it interesting, both in visuals and gameplay. All in all, it's a very fun and enjoyable fan game. Now, I need to confess something to you guys. Originally, this game and myPOPGOES were swapped on the list. However, I decided to think about it more, and I ultimately decided Too Many Nights was the true best FNAF fan game of 2024. Let me explain. myPOPGOES is still a genuinely great game with a lot of things to like about it. However, while obviously not a bad thing at all, it is a fanverse game, meaning it is popular and everyone knows it's going to be of quality. This fan game, however, is not a fanverse game, and I honestly don't see much people talk about this one. This game, just like myPOPGOES, is also a genuinely great game. However, I give the number 1 spot to this game simply because of the fact this non-fanverse game is neck and neck with a fanverse game to be genuinely impressive. It goes to show how truly talented, creative, and most importantly, passionate a small fan game developer can be when they work on something with those qualities, resulting in Too Many Nights to be a much more impressive product for me, and that is why, in my opinion, the best FNAF fan game to come out of 2024 is Too Many Nights. You know what, despite what I said in the intro, I'm really looking forward to FNAF fan games in 2025. As well, just FNAF in 2025 in general. In terms of the official side of things, we got the FNAF Movie 2, which is what I'm looking forward to the most. We also got Secret of the Mimic and the full version of 5 Laps at Freddy's. As well, we have the FNAF X Dead by Daylight collab, which I'm also really looking forward to. However, in terms of fan games, we got the Joy Creations full version. We got FNAF Furs full version. In terms of fan games that are most likely coming out in 2025, we got the full version of Blood and Gears, the full version of Establishment, the full version of Finance with Frick Bears 3, the full version of Treasure Island, Abandoned Enigma, and more. The 5-year anniversary of the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative being first announced is going to be in August 2025. There might be something special for that maybe, who knows. All in all though, while 2024 was a disappointment in terms of the amount of fan games that year, most of the fan games it did were pretty solid and good. And it is guaranteed that we're going to definitely have much more to talk about in 2025's top 5 best FNAF fan games of the year list, coming hopefully in January 2026.